I'm Biff Baggett, and I am standing on the shores of Tripoli in North Africa. I'm gazing out over the broad Mediterranean Sea. The area just in front of me was the scene of some of the most vicious sea battles ever fought between the newly formed American Navy with its complement of new Marine Corps fighters battling the pirates known as the Barbary Coast Pirates. The year is 1801. Thomas Jefferson has just been elected third president of the newly formed United States, who had just won its independence a few years before from Great Britain. For years, American shipping had been subject to raids by the Barbary Coast Pirates. They had been extracting for many years ransom for the crews and passengers, the ones who had not been sold into slavery. Thomas Jefferson, when he became elected president, decided he was going to stop completely the Barbary Coast Pirates. Barbary Coast consisted of Morocco, Tunis, Algiers, and the shores of Tripoli, where I'm standing today. And this is the story of what happened and how the country defeated the Barbary Coast Pirates once and for all. I think what we're doing is a good thing for American history students. Many schools are not teaching much of American history. George Washington University, I understand, has given up completely teaching American history. How in the world are people going to learn except from programs like ours? Well, there seems to be a definite program to destroy what is called Western culture. And American history is a great part of that. They contributed much to it. And so one of the first things they have to destroy is the American history. The founders of the country have to be known as nasty old men who owned slaves, and we consider them to be our heroes. But among young people today, many of them who don't know anything about them and what they did, they're nasty men. This is what's happening, and I personally don't like it, and I hope that our program will enlighten people in a way that they will understand American history and how important it is. And the story of the Barbary Coast Pirates and the American Navy is one of the most interesting, one of the most fascinating, and one that everyone should know. Every American should know the history of the Barbary Coast Pirates and how Thomas Jefferson and the new American Navy handled the problem. By the time Thomas Jefferson had been inaugurated as the third president of the United States in 1801, the country had been paying, before it was even a country, the colonists had been paying heavy ransom to the Barbary Coast Pirates for returning their ships and crews and passengers, the ones they did not sell into slavery. This is very costly to the United States. After it became a country, they wanted to expand into the western part of the country that is known now as Ohio and Indiana and so forth. And this was costing them so much money for ransom that they didn't have the money to do the movement into the West. And this was becoming a burden that Thomas Jefferson decided he was going to stop once and for all. Women who were captured were often sold into slavery. And at that time, and for many years later, there were famous paintings, I'll show you a few of them, of the Arabs at slave auctions where they were buying and selling women. At the At the slave auctions, the Arabs are always shown garbed in silks and great expensive clothing, whereas the women are always shown naked. Barbary Coast pirates also raided parts in Europe, especially Spain, Portugal, and all the way up to Scandinavia. These parties were the scourge of the Atlantic as well as the Mediterranean Sea. The United States government authorized $80 million for the building of 6 fighting frigates equipped with the latest cannons and sea fighting equipment, and manned with a full complement of men from the newly formed United States Marine Corps. This country had no navy. The Atlantic seaboard, like Boston and New York, had been protected by the British Navy. But when the Revolutionary War ended, the British Navy went back to England and left the ports on the Atlantic coast unprotected except for the local people and what protection they could get to themselves. But the new Navy now, their primary purpose was to destroy the Barbary Coast pirates. Many of the ships that were captured were boarded this way. The Barbary Coast pilots would come on board with a knife in each hand and another knife between their teeth. They terrified the crew and passengers so much that they capitulated immediately and gave up the ship. Jefferson heard about this, and he vowed too that this was going to stop. Many of the veterans who fought against the Barbary Coast pirates were veterans of the Revolutionary War, so they were used to fighting. They were tough people, and they were used to fighting, and that gave the United States Navy a great advantage over the pirates. Thomas Jefferson said more than one time that what he feared in the future was the Muslims of North Africa and other places would gather in strength and someday be a threat to the United States itself. Well, this has happened, as we know. Thomas Jefferson's predicted. He didn't really predict it, but he worried about it, and his worry has come true. Thanks for watching. We hope the program has been interesting and informative. You can see more and more Biff and Buff programs by typing in on any browser, Biff and Buff. You'll see our shows. We're all over the internet. Thanks for watching.